Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with some yearly favorites. I will hold off on all of the books until the very end of the year, so this is not a bookish video. This is just everything else that I really enjoyed in 2021. I like to hold off on the books until literally December 31st because a couple of years ago, I think in 2019 actually, several books that I read in December wound up being on my favorite books of the year list. And so I always like to really give myself until the very end of the year. So today we're just going to be talking about some other random things that I really enjoyed in 2021. And I decided to do this year. I've never done it before, basically because 2021 has been a really hard year. I think 2021 has been worse for me than 2020 in many different ways. And so I just wanted to celebrate things that have made me happy this year. And I hope that you can do that too, and you can make a list of all of the things that you have really enjoyed this year, books or not. So let's just get right into this. A couple of these things are kind of random, but for the most part, everything else is going to be other media. So I'm going to go into TV shows, films, and also music that I have enjoyed this year. This first thing is potentially the weirdest thing on my list, so let's just go on and get it out of the way. And it has to do with food. So this year, when I went on vacation, I went down to the area around Beaufort, North Carolina. And so while there, they have something called the Beaufort Olive Oil Company. And this is the first time I've ever actually been in a place that is truly an olive oil store or an olive oil company. And I picked up some of the best olive oil I have ever had in my life. So here is the bottle. It's empty now because it was addicting, and I went back in May, so I've had to order some more. But this is Tuscan herb olive oil. I don't know if you can see that, but the label is just so pretty with the lighthouse. So this is Tuscan herb olive oil. I also tried their garlic olive oil, which was also really great, but this right here is the addiction. I can barely eat pasta anymore if it doesn't have Tuscan herb olive oil on it. Pizza is made better by this. Literally everything. Salad dressings you make with this, incredible. This is just some absolutely amazing olive oil, and it has revolutionized my olive oil use. I am a big fan of olive oil. Some people are not. I think some people think olive oil comes on a little strong. This was pretty great because the olive taste of olive oil is not what came on strong. It was the herb taste, which was just really great, and I love Tuscan herbs. This was easily my favorite food discovery of the year, my favorite food item. I was just really thrilled to discover this, and now I am completely addicted. I did say I didn't want this video to be bookish. It kind of is in a roundabout way because this next thing does have to do with books, but I have started at least 5 journals this year, or continued in a few journals as well. And that has been a real highlight of my reading year, actually. So I have a journal that is basically to take notes on the book that I'm currently reading, and this is really helpful for me with classics because I like to have some context of the author's life, and then I also like to have context around the book in which the book was written. So kind of information about maybe the historical period in which it is set, why the author is dealing with certain themes in this book, and how relevant it was to their day and age. That journal is a more recent one for me. I've just recently started that, but I have found that to be very rewarding because it makes information stick with me a little bit longer. I really like just having somewhere to really write down thoughts and chronicle opinions. I discovered last year that I just really enjoy annotating, and I enjoy writing in the margins of books. And so the next step was clearly to start a couple of journals. And so last year I also started a quote journal where I write down quotes from the books that I'm reading. I've continued doing that this year. I really enjoy it, but I don't do it as often as I should. I don't do it for every book I read. In fact, 9 times out of 10, I update the quote to Goodreads, and then I come back and write the quote into the quote journal when I have Goodreads up. I rarely ever just write the quote down while I'm reading the book, though that would clearly be the smart thing to do, and that is actually what I think the purpose of the quote journal should be. But that's something that I really enjoy. Just this past week, I have started a K-pop journal and I really loved that because I love collaging. That's been a really great place for me creatively, just to take a break, collage, listen to music, take some notes. It's just been a really great experience. And another journal I've started this year is my Mary Shelley journal. I got this to kind of have alongside reading her diaries. I got really lucky and I was able to find a paperback copy of all of Mary Shelley's journals in one edition. And so I wanted to keep a journal alongside her. And this has been hit or miss for me because I really like to put art in my journals. So there's Mary. And I also really like to collage. That's something that I really, really enjoy doing. And frankly, this is just a regular journal. The pages are not meant to take paint or glue or anything like that. And so I haven't really enjoyed that so much. There's another of my collages with Percy. And so this is one that I am still a little bit iffy on. I might want to switch to another journal, but it's still just so pretty. So maybe I will keep this and it can just be my place where I write down my thoughts and really take actual notes. And I'll have to start another kind of creative bullet journal for my collaging. On the heels of that, also kind of a book that I shouldn't mention here, but it's not really a book that I am reading straight way through the way that I would fiction or nonfiction. And this is the Journals of Mary Shelley. This is my really fabulous edition. It looks barely used. I can't believe I got this used and it looks so great. And I am really, really enjoying this. I love spending time with Mary and Percy. And I am color coding my notes. I don't know if you can see this. So I have green, I think that means Percy. And then I have blue and pink, and up here, something was funny because I actually wrote LOL. I can't believe I did that. That seems very unusual for me. But this is a major favorite of the year. I actually haven't read any of Mary Shelley's fiction this year, and so this has kind of filled in a gap for me a little bit. I'm thinking next year I really want to work my way through everything she has. I'm just gonna read all of Mary's works, and I think having her journal with me will be a really, really great experience. And so this is definitely one of my favorite things of the year. Next, let's move into other media, other storytelling media, if you will, movies, TV shows, and music. And maybe let's go in that order. I don't have many movies to talk about. This was not a really movie-heavy year for me, and in general, over the past few years, I have moved more into the realm of television. I am far more interested in TV series nowadays than I am in films because I just like the longer form storytelling actually, and I don't think a lot original is being done in terms of films actually. There's my controversial opinion for you. And so this year, of course, was also extremely odd. And so a lot of the new releases I have not seen. Those that I have seen, I had really mixed opinions about, so we're not gonna cover those except for one because I do have some feelings, and so at least the movie got something out of me, so we'll save that for last. But I did watch Black Widow this year. I did go and see Black Widow in the theaters. That was really, really important to me to do. I really wanted to support a female superhero. I really wanted to support Scarlett Johansson, especially when all of that came out about her lawsuit and streaming and everything. And so I went to go see this in the theaters. As of right now, when I'm filming this, it is the only film I have seen in theaters this year. I didn't even go see Shang-Chi because of the Delta variant. So we'll get to Shang-Chi because I have watched that since it came onto streaming. I'm disappointed I didn't get to go support that one in theaters, but I did see Black Widow in theaters. It was great. I don't know if it was great because it was my first time back in a movie theater in over a year, and almost 2 years actually. So I have no idea if it really was the quality of the film or if it was just the experience of being back in a movie theater. I will say this is one of my favorite entries in the MCU. I'm really moving away from the MCU. Truly I am. And I knew when Endgame happened, I was just gonna wash my hands of it because I was Captain America all the way. They closed the door on that story really well, in my opinion, and I don't really care about anybody else. I do care about Loki and Thor. I'm sorry. But the Black Widow movie was really the only entry in Phase 4, I guess that's what we're in now. That's really been the only movie that I was truly interested in because I think she deserved it. I, along with a lot of other people, think this should have come earlier. I think we deserved this at least 7 years ago. And I think the film would work better had it been released when it was set. So this movie is set like in 2016 after the events of Captain America Civil War. And I think that's kind of confusing right when you get into it. But I really love this because I love the more realistic entries in the MCU. I love the Black Widow. I love spy stories. And I love Russian spy stories specifically. I love anything that feels vaguely Cold War. And this kind of did. This worked really well for me in a similar way to Captain America Winter Soldier, which is my favorite MCU movie. So I really enjoyed this one. The natural progression, I guess, is to talk about Shang-Chi, which took me completely by storm. I really was kind of excited about it. I was tentatively excited, I think, because some of these first entries for superheroes, the first films they have, the introductory film, I think sometimes they can stumble, and I think now Marvel is more interested in later films in the series than they are in introducing a new character. And so the ones that have come on later have felt a little bit weaker to me. And so I worried about that here. There was no need to be worried. Shang-Chi was my favorite movie of the year. Now, I have not seen the new Spider-Man movie yet, and I haven't seen Dune. So it very well may be edged out by either one of those, but I loved Shang-Chi so much. From the opening scene, I was in love. It was so magical and beautiful. It was beautifully shot. The cast was incredible. It was just really a really dreamy film. And it's interesting, coming right off of saying that I prefer the more realistic toned MCU films. This was certainly a more magical one. I loved it. Loved it, loved it. And it reminded me of what I used to really like about the world of the Thor films. The only Thor film I can tell you I truly loved was Ragnarok, but I think tonally it was very different from the other two, and I prefer the tone of the first two actually, but I love Ragnarok for what it does, and it's really, really funny. But this kind of encapsulated what I think is appealing about Thor as well, which is this kind of magical other realm. And Shang-Chi did something very smart in that it allowed us to stay in that sort of magical place for a large part of the film, rather than having it take place the majority in our world, which I think made it more interesting and more compelling to me. I really loved the character of Shang-Chi. I loved all the characters in the movie. I loved this. This is one of the freshest things the MCU has done in a long time. So maybe I'm not out. Maybe the MCU is pulling me back in. Recently, I also watched a film for the first time. It did not come out this year, but it's one of the best films I've seen this year, and that is Train to Busan, which is a South Korean film about a zombie apocalypse where everyone is on a train to Busan, of course. It's a really very tense film because the zombie outbreak occurs when everyone is on the train. So for a little while anyway, no one has any idea what is happening. It is just a really tense and really suspenseful film. I love it, but then I really like a zombie movie. And I specifically like a zombie movie about the outbreak. And so this was just really, really great to me. Again, the characters were so interesting. We had a core group that we followed throughout the film, and some of them were really funny, some of them were really terrible people. It was just a really, really great and interesting film. And you're gonna find out here as this video goes on that specifically since October, but I'll just say in the second half of the year, Korean media has overtaken my life. And I think there's a very specific reason that I'm really interested in what South Korea is doing. And it's because I think they are dealing with themes and topics that are just really, really relevant to me and that I think are really interesting. And they're not afraid to deal with those themes openly or blatantly. So in this film, our main character is automatically kind of out for himself in this situation, and like, we can't worry about anybody else, we've got to worry about ourselves. And he has a young daughter who he tells this to, but throughout the film, other characters willingly put themselves at risk to help him or to help his daughter, and thus his character arc is really interesting as he understands that even in a situation like a zombie apocalypse, people still care for one another, which I think is a really beautiful message. So I'm reading deep into a zombie film here, but this one was really great. If you've not watched it, I highly recommend it. I think it's on Amazon Prime, so I watched it streaming. Last but not least, this is not a movie I enjoyed, but I have feelings about it, so I want to kind of talk it out here. And so I recently watched Snake Eyes. I rented Snake Eyes. This is one that I also really wanted to see in the theater. I'm glad I didn't go, but I really wanted to go because I love Henry Golding. I think he is so charming and so suave and so handsome. And Snake Eyes is technically an entry in the G.I. Joe series. And weirdly enough, I know quite a bit about G.I. Joe and the world of G.I. Joe. I have memories of it from childhood. And I also really liked the movies with Channing Tatum and The Rock. Come at me. They're my guilty pleasure movies. Anytime they're on, I'll drop anything just to watch them because visually they're very interesting and fun to me. And so I was excited about this. Snake Eyes in G.I. Joe is a really interesting character. And I knew it was gonna be a mess because in the trailer, he was talking basically the whole time, and in reality in G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes never talks. So Henry Golding played Snake Eyes, and it's essentially a prequel. He is becoming Snake Eyes. And then there was another actor whose name has escaped me, but he played who will eventually be Storm Shadow, who is my favorite in the world of the G.I. Joe. I love Storm Shadow. He's so cool. He's so cool just because he wears all white and he fights with 2 swords. It takes very little to impress me. If you have a cool outfit and you have a cool weapon, I'm probably pretty happy with it. And so Storm Shadow is somebody that I like just from a visual sense. But this movie just really, really ruined the dynamic of their characters, how they became who they become, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. It was really wild because in the world of G.I. Joe, Storm Shadow is an antagonist. And when you learn the background of what happened between him and Snake Eyes, he still comes off as the antagonist. And this movie did everything it could to make you actually hate Snake Eyes and like Storm Shadow. And from an audience perspective, from an outsider perspective, I enjoy that, but that was not the film's intent. The film's intent was, I think, to make you like Snake Eyes, and yet throughout the movie you're wondering, why is this dude doing this? This dude has just rolled up into another man's life and ruined everything he had. It was just the weirdest experience ever, but I walked away from it thinking quite a bit about it. So maybe I am actually putting it on a favorites of the year because it is a film I have consistently thought about since I finished watching it. It was an absolute mess. If you have watched it, please let me know your thoughts down below because I'm still having a lot of feelings. I can't believe tonally how much the movie wanted you to root for Snake Eyes, Henry Golding. It really wanted you to think of him as the hero, but objectively, when you were watching the movie and you were seeing him do what he's doing, he's not a good person. So it was a very confused film. I had heard mixed things about it. Now I see why. Okay, in terms of TV series, I wrote down I wanted to only do a top 3, but I'm gonna do a top 4. Interestingly enough, even when I was eliminating shows that I wanted to talk about, 90% of them were not American made or even British made. So my top 4 of the year are all international shows. So let's just go by the order in which they came out. So the first show that I fell in love with this year was Lupin on Netflix. And so this is a French-made series. This show is so much fun. If you have not watched it, stop what you were doing and go watch it right now. You will have the time of your life. This is technically a retelling of a French classic called Arsène Lupin, who is kind of a gentleman thief, and he is kind of a contemporary, weirdly enough, of Sherlock Holmes. There's a really funny story about the author wanting to do a crossover between Lupin and Sherlock Holmes, and Arthur Conan Doyle was like, that's literally never happening. And so the author made a character called Sherlock Sholmes to show up in a Lupin book, which I just have to appreciate. But this is a modern day story. It's taking place in the modern day, and it is focusing on a character who kind of inhabits the role of Lupin, and I really don't want to tell you anything else about it. It's full of heists, it's really dramatic, and it's also just so much fun. I think when you were watching the show, you just have a smile on your face. I love it so much. And the main actor, Omar Sy, is incredible. This is a really fabulous, fabulous show. Next, let's go to Norway, because one of the shows from Norway that I watched this year did not come out this year, but this show is called The Beforeigners. This is absolutely incredible. So this show is about people randomly appearing in the water, like in waterways in Norway, and they are all from back in time. And so eventually society has to adapt to the fact that all over the world, all sorts of people from different eras of history have come back to life, have emerged out of the waterways, which sounds really strange, but we don't really know why this has happened. We don't really have any rhyme or reason to it. The people from back in time also don't know. And so in Norway, 3 major groups, I believe, are those that came back. And of course, one of those major groups are Vikings. And so the main characters, our main character is a guy who is a detective and a girl who joins the police force who was once a shield maiden. And so it's really interesting because the show is following kind of a murder mystery, but it's also interacting with all of these characters that have come back from history. It's really, really interesting how they have set up the world, how they have envisioned what the world would be if a large group of people from a certain period in time came about today. The show is just really smart, even the name of it, Beforeigners, because they are foreign, but they are from before times. I mean, it's just really cute. Everything about it is so smart and smartly done. I'm really hoping the second series of this comes out next year because I was truly blown away by it. Also from Norway, the second season of Ragnarok on Netflix came out this year. Wow, nothing but respect for my Thor. I've talked about this show a lot on my channel, I feel like, and so this show is all about teenagers essentially gaining the powers of the Norse gods. Our main character, Magna, has the power of Thor, and the first season is set up as the coming of Ragnarok, and so there are a group of characters that are the giants or the Jotuns from Norse mythology, and then we have Magna, who is kind of becoming a Thor figure. In the second season, we have a few other characters who are starting to embody the traits of the Norse gods. It is also a genuinely smart show. The characterization is incredible, and I just love Magna so much. Another of my big crushes of the year. I think he was a big crush for me last year when the first season came out, but I just absolutely adore him. He's also just a really incredible actor. Everything he does is believable, which is crazy to say when somebody is like wielding lightning and throwing a hammer around, but you never question it. He's so good. He's so genuine in his emotion. It's just a really, really great show, and it's very short. So you might want to try that after you try Lupon, if you haven't tried Lupon. Last but not least, let's head to South Korea to another show that I can't shut up about, and that's Squid Game. I don't feel like I have to say a whole lot here because everyone in the world has watched Squid Game and loved it. It's the #1 show Netflix has ever had, but genuinely, this is probably the best show I've seen all year. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, the characterization was so strong. If I don't care about the characters, I'm not going to care about the show. And that, I think, is the strong suit of all of the shows that I've just talked about, is that you very, very deeply care for the characters. But the plot is also pretty great. Squid Game follows kind of a death game, which is one of my favorite setups in fiction. I'll always watch something that has to do with a fight to the death. So that is easily my favorite show of the year. I loved it so much. And again, going back to kind of the message thing, the message behind Squid Game is so good. And I really love all of the themes that they're playing with. It was a very deep and introspective show, but it also was pretty blatant in the themes that it dealt with, which I really, really appreciate as a viewer, and I think made the show really engaging to me, because not only was it great in terms of plot, great in terms of characterization, but you walked away from it thinking. And I really think that's the strong suit of storytelling, and that's what I'm looking for in a story. So Squid Game is easily the best show that I've seen all year. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about music. Spotify released their Spotify Wrapped the other day, and I promise you I am not the person that Spotify Wrapped says I am, because really in the end, Spotify is not always my first choice for listening to music. I tend to actually listen quite a bit on YouTube, and when YouTube ever releases their YouTube Wrap, that's when I need to be scared. How many times I've watched a certain Backstreet Boys music video or EXO music video does not need to be known by me or anyone else. Spotify has come up for me in recent years. I really resisted it when it first kind of was getting big because I really preferred a site called 8 Tracks, which is now bit the dust. 8 Tracks is gone, but it was really one of the best places ever. It was essentially all playlists, and it was a really great way to find new music. I don't feel as though Spotify knows me very well when they suggest new music to me. I think they're getting better. Maybe I just needed to really exist on Spotify for a long time and really just listen exclusively on Spotify. But I thought we could go over some of my Spotify Wrapped. One of the interesting things they did this year was they gave you an aura, an audio aura, and I just think this is really interesting because they told me that mine was focused and bold. I don't necessarily believe that. I think maybe I am a focused and bold person, but I don't necessarily think that's what I tend to choose to listen to in music. But I thought the Aura edition this year was really pretty interesting. So my top songs of the year, I'm kind of embarrassed by. I really kind of am. But I'll tell you, I use Spotify almost primarily when I am writing. And when I am writing, I tend to find a particular song that fits the scene or the vibe I'm going for, and the words mean nothing, the lyrics mean nothing. Sometimes it is just literally the beat of a song that gets me really focused on writing, and so I will listen to a song on a loop. And some songs I'm embarrassed that I've had to listen to on a loop. So my #1 song of the year was Beautiful Mistakes by Maroon 5 and Megan Thee Stallion. It's a great song. The beat is incredible, and I know I was listening to it when I was writing a lot, but it feels so weird in the year 2021 to have Maroon 5 be your #1 song. I don't know when I've listened to Maroon 5 in the past few years, but that song is absolutely a banger. My second song of the year is Dope by BTS. I'm not ashamed of this because the beat of it is absolutely incredible and it's just an amazing song. I really love Dope, and I'm shocked that BTS was not #1. More of my top songs of 2021, like 5 songs by Blackbear. I'm not ashamed of this. Blackbear was my most listened to artist, I think, a couple of years ago, and he's in my top 5 this year. Something about his music, something about it just really gets me. I don't really relate to his songs, but there's something about kind of just the way that they're all a little bit similar in tone that I think I really like. And that's also why The Neighborhood works for me. The Neighborhood is on here like 10 times. I love how a lot of their songs kind of hit the same mark for me because they sound tonally similar. And they are both, Blackbear and The Neighborhood, they are both choices for me when I'm going to sleep. I really like them to lull me to sleep, but they're also good writing music for me. Rasputin by Boney M is in my top 5. Can't Say I'm Ashamed. My top band of the year, this is interesting, my top band of the year is a band called Confetti, who I don't think many people have heard of. Confetti essentially wrote my last work in progress for me. I don't know how I would have finished that book without their music, because several of their songs just really hit it for me, and I kept them on a loop while I was finishing that book last year and into this year. And so I know that that's really why Confetti is my #1 artist, but literally every time I hear one of their songs, I am transported to Renaissance Rome, which is where my book was set. And so I really need to get back to that. I really should be editing that. Foreign Air is another of my top bands of the year. I love Foreign Air. They have been one of my favorite discoveries of the past couple of years. And BTS and EXO are some of my most listened to bands of the year. In terms of genre, I got something called Nightcore, and I don't even know what that is. That's my 3rd most listened to genre. I have no clue what that is. I've even tried to look it up, and the definition doesn't even clarify it for me. So if you know what Nightcore is, please explain it to me down below. I'm becoming old, I feel like I'm essentially now an old millennial. I also listened to a lot of alternative rock this year, something called indie poptimism. I think we're just making stuff up now. And dance pop and K-pop. Once again, I would like to say that your Spotify Wrapped does not define you, but I do think, looking back on 2021, this definitely was an incredibly pop-filled year for me. I really needed happy, uplifting music, which pop does. Another of my top artists of the year is Zayd Wolf. He's always in my top 5. Last year when Spotify wrapped the decade, he was my most listened to artist of the decade. I love Zayd Wolf. If you have not listened to him, you're in for a treat. All of his songs are great. And if you are somebody who writes, I think his songs are excellent for fight scenes. So yes, this year I discovered BTS. It's been in the past 2 months. I actually remember when I first started getting into them, and it was at the beginning of November. So it's been a couple of months. I'm really shocked it's taken me this long to fall down the rabbit hole with them, because I knew I would love them and I just resisted it. I've tried to resist K-pop for a really long time because I had a friend who was really into K-pop a few years ago, and she was into EXO. And EXO, the chokehold that Coco Bop had on me in 2017, we still don't need to talk about it, but EXO is probably actually my favorite K-pop band. But I never got involved in like the fandom side of it. I never got involved in even knowing who the members were. I just really liked to listen to their music and watch their music videos. BTS is a whole other thing. It's like I'm now really involved in knowing who everyone is, and I watch interviews with them, I watch when they go live, and it's just such a really fun and bright community of people. There's a lot to love about K-pop. The choreography is incredible. The beats are incredible. The hair, absolutely incredible. Everyone is cute. Everyone is really, really nice, but I think it's really the community of people that surround them. And also that the message of K-pop tends to be really meaningful and really positive. And I have really needed that this year. I have really needed positive music, positive vibes in general, positive books to read. This has not been the year for any kind of negativity or even sort of sad media for me. And so I think that's why K-pop really hit me hard here at the end of the year, and why BTS in particular did. And so I really, really am loving BTS. It's too late for me. I'm ARMY now. I'm in really, really deep. And so let me know down below if you're into BTS. Let me know who your bias is. My bias is Jimin, but every time I think this, I then see Namjoon do something, or I hear him speak, and then I question everything about myself, because I really, really like Namjoon as a person. And I think that he's so, so intelligent. And their music videos are just so great from that aspect. I feel like their music videos are really, really smart. So a couple of my favorite music videos of the year are Blood, Sweat, and Tears by them. That's my favorite music video. I really loved Butter. Butter is when I fell in love. So they do like a lineup kind of single dancing moment in an elevator at some point in the music video where they all get to show off a solo dance, and that's when I knew it was too late for me. That's when I was in love. And so I loved the Butter music video. But like I said, through BTS, I've come back to EXO, who was maybe my favorite band in 2017. And Coco Bop is still always, every year, in my top 100 songs on Spotify. I love that song so much. That's the best K-pop song. Sorry, you can argue with me in the comments, but I really love Coco Bop. But so through BTS, I went back into EXO, and I feel like EXO is probably my heart band. They're probably really where I stand truly with K-pop, is that I really, really love EXO. And so my favorite music video of theirs, and is sincerely a top 10 music video for me in general, is Love Shot. I will link to it down below, and you can thank me later. I feel like this year I've also revealed on my channel just how much I really enjoy music videos. Music videos add so much to a song for me. It's interesting because Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space literally said the other day that she has never felt as though music videos add anything to music until she got into K-pop, because music videos in K-pop are so detail-oriented. But for me, a great music video can actually make a song sound better. And so some of my favorite music videos are really not my favorite songs by a band or by an artist, but they really make me enjoy the song more. And I think that might be why I really enjoy BTS's music, is that I saw it visually. I watched a music video before I just listened to the song. So those are my favorite music videos of the year. There are so many great music videos by EXO, and they're all in this kind of style. My favorite music videos are in the style of Love Shot, which is kind of a darker style for them, where they kind of are like gangsters and they get roughed up in a lot of these videos. Another one is Lotto, which is great. And another one is Obsession, which is fabulous. Just fabulous. I will link to some of these music videos down below if you also really like music videos. I think they're a really interesting way to create art, and I really enjoy them. I enjoy short form media like that. And there's another reason why I think I've enjoyed K-pop, is that they really are telling you a story throughout their music video. Wow, I really went on for a long time, and this is much longer than I thought it was going to be. So if you have sat through all of this, please get yourself a cookie. But these are my favorites of the year that are not bookish, and I would love to know down below what your favorites of the year were, if we have any overlap. But that's going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.